Step into Chinatown. Red lanterns glow warmly above busy streets. The air often hums with a mix of languages. You might smell delicious foods cooking nearby. Pagoda roofs rise, catching your eye. These sights are familiar in many American cities. They feel like a journey to another place, another time. But is this the whole story? Is what we see truly what was? Or is there a deeper, more complex history waiting? A history hidden just beneath the surface of these vibrant streets. Let's pull back the curtain and explore the untold story of Chinatown's origins. Let's journey back to its very beginnings in America. Learn how these unique neighborhoods first came to be. Understand what Chinatown represents in different cities, see its iconic design features, those beautiful buildings and gates. But we will also ask why they look this way. Was it always like this? Or was this design a choice made for specific reasons at a specific time? We will focus on San Francisco's Chinatown. It is one of the oldest and most famous. Its story is dramatic, filled with hardship and resilience. We will see how Chinese immigrants and others built it from scratch. They created a community against many odds. The story of American Chinatowns often begins in San Francisco. It started in the mid-19th century. Gold was discovered in California. News spread like wildfire across the Pacific. People in southern China heard tales of Gamsan. This meant Gold Mountain. Many were struggling with poverty and unrest at home. America seemed like a land of opportunity, a place to work, earn money and send it back to their families, so they began to arrive. These early immigrants were mostly men. They came from Guangdong province, particularly the Pearl River Delta. They were not the poorest, as the journey cost money, but they were seeking a better life. They signed up for long voyages on crowded ships. The journey itself was difficult and dangerous. Upon arrival, they faced a strange new land. The language was different, the customs were unfamiliar, and they were often met with suspicion, not welcome. They settled together for support and familiarity. In San Francisco, this area was near Portsmouth Square. It was a central part of the growing city. Chinese merchants were among the very first to arrive. They set up businesses, they sold goods, offered services, and provided lodging. Soon, a distinct neighborhood began to form. Life in early San Francisco Chinatown was vibrant, but it was also challenging. The immigrants created a society that mirrored, in some ways, the one they left. They formed district associations based on their home regions in China. These groups provided mutual aid and support. They helped newcomers find jobs and housing. They mediated disputes within the community. Temples were built for religious practices. The sounds, smells, and sights of home were recreated as much as possible. The neighborhood was densely populated. Buildings were often crowded. Living conditions could be tough. Yet a rich cultural life flourished. There were opera houses, tea houses, and gambling halls. Festivals were celebrated with traditional music and parades. For the men separated from their families, these communal activities were vital. They offered comfort and a sense of belonging. They helped preserve their cultural identity in a foreign land. This was their sanctuary. However, this growing community faced increasing hostility. As the number of Chinese immigrants rose, so did anti-Chinese sentiment. Economic downturns often led to them being scapegoated. They were accused of taking jobs from white workers. They were seen as unassimilable and foreign. Discriminatory laws were passed at local and state levels. These laws targeted Chinese businesses and individuals. Like and subscribe now. On April 18, 1906, disaster struck San Francisco. A massive earthquake hit the city in the early morning. Buildings crumbled, gas lines broke, fires erupted almost immediately. The quake itself was devastating. But the fires that followed were even worse. They raged for 3 days. Much of San Francisco was reduced to ash and rubble. Chinatown, located in the heart of the city, was completely destroyed. Its wooden structures stood no chance against the inferno. The residents of Chinatown faced unimaginable horror. They lost their homes, their businesses, their temples. They lost everything they had built over decades. Many had to flee with only what they could carry. The fire swept through the narrow streets with terrifying speed. Accounts from survivors tell of chaos and desperation. They speak of families separated in the smoke and confusion. The physical destruction was almost total. It seemed like the end of Chinatown. For some city officials and business leaders, this was an opportunity. They had long wanted to move Chinatown. They saw it as an undesirable blight on valuable downtown land. Before the ashes even cooled, plans were being made. Plans to relocate the Chinese residents to a less central area. Some suggested Hunter's Point, far from the city centre. From ashes to allure, a new vision is created. The fight to rebuild Chinatown in its original location was intense. Chinese community leaders and merchants were determined. They understood the power of their collective voice. They also had allies in the wider San Francisco community. Some influential figures recognized the injustice of forced relocation. They also saw the economic contributions of Chinatown. The Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, also known as the Six Companies, played a key role. They lobbied hard. They argued that Chinatown was an integral part of San Francisco. It was a unique cultural asset. It attracted visitors and commerce. They also pointed out that Chinese residents owned property. They had legal rights. The city government was under pressure. They needed to rebuild San Francisco quickly. They also needed to project an image of stability. Eventually, the plans to move Chinatown were abandoned. The community had won a crucial victory. They could rebuild their homes. But rebuilding was not just about putting up new buildings. There was a new idea emerging, an idea to make Chinatown more appealing to outsiders, especially to tourists. Before the earthquake, Chinatown was often depicted negatively. It was portrayed as a dangerous, mysterious, and unsanitary place. This image was fueled by anti-Chinese racism. Crafting an Orient to be remembered, let's look at Luk Tin Eli's design. The task of designing this new Chinatown fell to a few key individuals. One prominent figure was Luk Tin Eli. He was an American-born Chinese businessman and community leader. He had a strong vision and understood Western tastes. The new Chinatown should look Chinese, but in an exotic, romanticized way. Think of curved tile roofs, ornate balconies, and bright colors. It was a stage set for tourism, meant to be eye-catching and picturesque. The famous Dragon Gate on Grant Avenue embodies this design philosophy. A pattern is repeated in Chinatown's coast to coast. The success of San Francisco's redesigned Chinatown did not go unnoticed. As Chinese communities grew in other American cities, they faced similar challenges. They too dealt with discrimination. They too needed ways to ensure their economic survival. The San Francisco model offered a template, a way to make their neighborhoods more acceptable and more profitable. So the distinctive architectural style began to spread. It appeared in Chinatowns across the United States. You can see echoes of this design in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Boston. Pagoda roofs, decorative balconies, and bright colors became trademarks. Entrance gates, or paifang, became common features. These were often elaborate and photogenic. They signaled to visitors that they were entering a special place, a place that was authentically Chinese, even if that authenticity was carefully constructed. It was a brand identity for Chinatowns everywhere. This replication was often encouraged by both Chinese community leaders and city officials. For Chinese communities, it was a way to attract business. Beneath the facade carries the weight of exclusion. Throughout this entire period, a dark cloud loomed. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, this landmark piece of legislation, was devastating. It was the first significant law restricting immigration of a specific ethnic group. It banned Chinese laborers from entering the United States. It also denied Chinese immigrants the right to become naturalized citizens. This act, and its subsequent renewals and expansions, had a profound impact. It shaped Chinatown's development in fundamental ways. The Exclusion Act created a climate of fear and uncertainty. It made it very difficult for Chinese men to bring their wives and families to America. This led to imbalanced communities largely made up of bachelor societies. It also meant that the Chinese population in the US stagnated and even declined for decades. The act institutionalized discrimination. It reinforced the idea that Chinese people were perpetual foreigners, that they did not belong. The rebuilding of San Francisco's Chinatown after 1906 must be seen in this context. Chinatown's legacy is a complex reflection. Today, Chinatowns across America stand as vibrant cultural centers. They are places of community, commerce, and cuisine. They attract millions of visitors each year. The iconic architecture, born from San Francisco's ashes, defines them. Red lanterns, pagoda roofs, and dragon gates are instantly recognizable. They create a sense of exotic allure, an allure that was intentionally crafted. This design was a brilliant adaptation, a response to racism and economic necessity. Yet this very appeal also brings a layer of cultural misrepresentation. The Chinatown look is often a simplified, romanticized version of Chinese culture. It can obscure the true diversity and complexity of Chinese American history. It can reinforce stereotypes rather than challenge them. The real stories of struggle, resilience, and everyday life are sometimes hidden behind the picturesque facades. It's a blend of genuine heritage and constructed image, a beautiful mask that sometimes hides a more complicated truth. The story of Chinatown's origins is a powerful reminder. It shows how immigrant communities navigate prejudice, how they build spaces of belonging in often unwelcoming lands. San Francisco's Chinatown, rebuilt with a specific vision, became a model. But it also set a precedent for presenting culture in a way that is palatable, even entertaining to outsiders. This can be a source of pride and economic strength, but it can also lead to questions about authenticity and about who controls the narrative. We must look beyond the surface, beyond the beautiful gates and colorful decorations. Like and subscribe for more history, economics, and psychology.